Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Lifeboat. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and I will be your host for the next hour here. Hi, everybody. Listen to that. Welcome to the Lifeboat. Little delay. I will be hosting the Lifeboat live from the Southwest Monsoon Center of Lifeboat Media. Yeah, we had an absolute vicious monsoon. And I've been looking forward to it. I really have. I've been wanting this monsoon thing to hit because if you live down here, you want it to cool off. It's really, I'm feeling good, Chili Phil. Thank you. It's one of those things that you want because it cools stuff off. It went from like 115 to 68 in 20 minutes. I kid you not. I have never seen temperature drop like that in my life. It was absolutely bizarre, but I enjoyed it. I really did. Squirrel, on the other hand, did not. Squirrel Nut's a little bit freaked out, and I don't know. Hopefully, she will come and see us. Balake, good to see you. Lisa K, glad you're here. Virginia, I'm glad you're here. Mr. Ray Ray, boy, oh boy. He says the whole street is flooded. Show it to the Lifeboat. If I knew how to do that, I would, but we'll get it up on one of the platforms. Had a strange, vivid dream about the captain. Wow. The Tommy Scoville Show, tales on the life of the Scoville brothers and extras outside. The real story was not for children. No, the real story is a little bit, definitely not. It's not a good one for kids, sadly. We messed that one up pretty good. But I'm so glad to see all of you here, especially because Aaron's doing a fire show right now. But I don't postpone the Lifeboat. I would have liked to because I was enjoying the hell out of it. But I will go back. A lot of really brave women that he's got on that program tonight. Really, really wish I could have spent a little bit more time there, but I absolutely will see it on the replay, and I enjoyed the hell out of it while I was watching it live. So, hope everybody's doing well. I had a tough weekend. If you missed my earlier update, it was a bit of a tough weekend, honestly, all things considering. I wish there would have been another way around it, but it did open my eyes a little bit, and it got me thinking back to some shows that some of the new people definitely have not seen. And I think it's probably important that we talk about Public Enemy number 1. Everybody who's been on the boat for any length of time probably knows where I'm going with this. But if you're new to the boat, this could be brand new for you. And it's pretty important stuff. It really is. We talk all the time about the malfunctioning reward center of the brain. So you got this little thing in your brain that we call the striatum. And the striatum, Heather Joy. Good to see you, Heather. Welcome, a.k.a. Heather Joy. Heather, Magnum PI, right? I'm rocking my Magnum PI shirt. Heather Joy, thank you for all of the work that you did. This is for you. Thank you for all of the work that you did over the weekend. You know, when your partner calls you and says, I'm just going to be worthless for 3 days, that's a tough phone call. But Heather took it like a trooper and really did a great job, and I appreciate the hell out of it. So thank you so much, Heather. I really, really do appreciate you. Probably don't say it often enough, but I really do appreciate you. Quiet Girl, good to see you. I hope that train getting derailed is nowhere near you. Coburn, I will reach out to you in the next 2 days. We need to have a conversation. I read one of your emails that I need to talk to you about, so I'll be reaching out to you. All right, peeps. So this striatum, what does it do? Well, it does a lot of things. It really does. And sadly for us, they are agreed, Quiet Girl, she does. Sadly, everything that the striatum does short circuits our success. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. When we talk about the reward center of the brain getting hijacked, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the striatum. And this is also a part of the brain that hey, James Novak, good to see you. Sobriety is number 1. It absolutely is. And sadly, your number 1 enemy in this fight against trying to stay sober, this fight against drugs and addiction, your number 1 enemy is your own brain. Your own brain does not want you to succeed. And there's a reason for that. It's not our gray matter's fault. It's easy to get pissed off at the brain. It really is. If you spend any amount of time on this road to sobriety, you'll start honestly getting angry with the gray matter because you will come to the conclusion over and over again that there are parts of your brain that don't seem to want you to succeed. And the reason for that is pretty simple. We talked about the subconscious mind in a couple of videos that I did before the weekend. And if your subconscious mind isn't on board, if your subconscious mind is going in the opposite direction of the direction you're going, then you're fighting an uphill battle that more than likely is going to end in ruin. That's why addiction is a brain disorder. Booyah, booyah. By the way, she knows a heck of a lot more about this than I do, to be sure. And you'll hopefully, well, we'll talk about all of that. Good, Valerie. We hope you get the job. So so this part of the brain likes to do 1+1 stuff. In other words, this is programming your brain. If this happens, the brain has a default setting to go to, right? It is literally autopilot. Have you ever left work and you're pissed off at your significant other, or you're angry at your boss, or whatever the case may be, but you leave work and you're not happy. You're not in a particularly good mood, and you're just sort of flying home, right? You're flying low. You're driving 60 miles an hour, whatever, and you're just thinking to yourself, I cannot believe that woman said that to me. You know what I mean? I get absolutely no respect at work. You're throwing turn signals on, you're stopping at red lights, and you get home. And if somebody said to you, how many red lights did you stop at on the way home? And you don't have a clue. Full of Hope, good to see you. Anik Alexander, good to see you. Hello, V. Zen Wen, glad you're here. This is one of those things that so many times we say, you know what, honestly, I felt like I was on autopilot. Well, you were. About 80% of what we do every single day is autopilot. 80% of everything that we do every day is autopilot. Did you catch that? Yeah. 80% of what we do. So why is it? Yeah, Lisa K says autopilot. This is why I beat to death small little things that seem wildly insignificant, because what we're doing is we're trying to reprogram that autopilot. Because my brain for 30 some odd years said, if Tommy gets upset, we get high. Right? We do whatever it takes to make sure that we can make the feeling go away by getting high. If Tommy feels fantastic, we need to knock the edges off of that too. And the way that we do that, we get high. All things considering, I feel good, Chilihead. I really do. And I took a really small dose of Suboxone, which is just fantastic. I got the same amount of relief out of a quarter of one strip than I would have gotten out of two. Dad joke. Dad, how much should I sell my dead batteries for? How about free of charge? Balake has been spending entirely too much time next to Seventh Son. This is called Seventh Son syndrome. This happens on the boat. It's your proximity to Steve. It does it all the time. You really got to be careful with that. It's one of those things that can sneak up on you and smack you in the back of the head. So what do we do? What do we do if we realize that so much of what we do every single day is autopilot? Well, for me, it was a matter of restructuring virtually everything that I did. What did I normally do at 10 o'clock? Not sure, but I'm not doing it anymore. 10 o'clock every single day, I had a routine, right? And I did things like doing yoga, teaching yoga. I taught classes in the library, one on stocks and one on sobriety. And while I was in prison, I took every waking moment that I was on that yard. I had something scheduled to do. And intentionally, I did things that I would be able to do at a later date. Will Swirl be giving her input, or do we need a catnip intervention with her? It's funny you say that, because Squirrel's catnip is available to her at all times. It is out and in the room. And very rarely does Squirrel mess with it. But boy, when she does, she's hell on wheels. But I find it funny because it's kind of an experiment for me. I know I'm squirreling off, but I need to do this one. But it's kind of an experiment for me. We've talked on the Lifeboat many times about rat utopia. You saw the things back in the 80s. They made a lot of commercials, and they talked an awful lot about how you could get addicted to, say, crack cocaine in one hit. One hit. You could never stop. And the way they came up with this was by testing animals, rodents, and all that was in that cage was water, food, and crack, right? And cocaine, basically. Those were the three things that animal could get and nothing else. It could get coke. It could get, so it hit the coke thing until it died, and this was an experiment that was carried out again and again. And then somebody put those same parameters together, but inside of the cage, so to speak, where this rat would be living, they took the time to put in a whole bunch of things that a rodent would find fun to play with, including female rodents, which I guess if you're a male rodent is probably a fun thing to play with, probably top of the list. But they put in females. Good to have you back, Valerie. Hope you get the job. They put in wheels to run on. They put little tubes to go through. They put stuff to chew on. And they built this little rat utopia. And you know what they found? They found that if you ran about 100 mice through this thing, that there were about 3 to 5 out of every group that were going to go completely off the rails and do just exactly what happened when there was nothing to play with, right? So 3 out of 5 of the 100 were just going to go hard until it was over. And then there was a group that was going to abuse this stuff, probably more than they should. It was going to affect their life. It was going to affect their weight. It was going to affect how much time they spent with others. But it basically mimicked very similar to what happens in our society. The vast majority of people who do drugs, you got to hate them, but they can do it. They can do drugs. They can get stoned every once in a while, or they can do blow, on holidays or on anniversaries or whatever the hell it is. But they have the ability to get high and then stop getting high. They are the most annoying people in the world to guys like me and people like you, because we do not have the capability to do what they do. For us, the striatum has different plans. And you see, the striatum also takes care of rewarding you for important stuff or for good stuff, right? The idea is that the striatum is supposed to keep not only us healthy, but the entire human race moving forward. That's the theory, right? And so it does things like make sure that sex is a hell of a lot of fun, right? So we have a good time with sex. It gives you fantastic, release of feel-good chemicals when you are intimate with another person. And this kind of ensures the race continuing on, right? And then when the child is born, and it's just a terrifying little screaming thing that craps all over everything, right? The reason we didn't throw those children away, right? Get that screaming thing away from me. God or Mother Nature or whatever you want to believe in, I believe that God did it personally, but God made it so that when you pick up that child, the amount of feel-good chemicals that gets released in your, Lisa K says, normies suck. Oh, see that? Now you know what we'll do? Now we'll put you on blast and make that thing our wallpaper for the rest of the show, Lisa. Because it's a great comment. It really is. I know she's kidding, and you know she's kidding, but we all know that feeling, right? There's something super annoying about somebody that can do something that you can't do. And that's really what we're facing with the normies. They've got the ability to dabble. They've got the ability to chip. They've got the ability to fart around with drugs and not end up, fully addicted and having their lives completely unraveled. We, on the other hand, can't do that. And the reason is, like, when that nurse hands you your infant and you hold that thing in your hands for the very first time. I remember when they handed me Spanx. I remember when they handed me my daughter. And in both cases, I mean, it was instant. You have this baby in your hands and you're like, I will kill anybody that comes near this kid. If anybody ever messes with this kid, I'm killing them, right? This is the most important thing in the world, right? This is more important than anything. And you're instantly bonded to that child in a way that nothing ever breaks, right? What happens if the first time you stick a needle in your arm, your brain does the exact same thing? You follow me? Okay, so this malfunctioning reward center of the brain gives you the same blast of chemicals. So in your mind, consciously and subconsciously, you're saying, this is the most important thing I've ever done. This stuff makes me feel better than anything else does. And how could you compare? Because we don't just have the buzz of the drug. We have the buzz of the drug and a part of our brain saying, this is just as important as the birth of your baby girl. Now go do your drugs. It's not all that strange that we get addicted to it, is it? I mean, honestly. Now, if this makes sense to you, if this makes sense, this malfunctioning reward center of the brain concept, if it makes sense to you, give me an aye, Captain. Okay, now, if you just said aye, Captain, my next question is pretty basic. How are you going to beat the crap out of yourself for the rest of your life for things that you did while under the influence? If your brain, public enemy number one, was rewarding you every time you got that crap, you went to a parking lot and met some seedy drug dealer and jumped in his car, threw some cash at him. He spit balloons out of his mouth, rubbed them dry on his pants, and then handed them to you, right? Then you jump out of the parking lot, you run, and by the time you get back to the car, those feel-good chemicals are already flooding you. In fact, they're flooding you so much that you don't instantly need a fix. In fact, normally, like this has happened to me, I've talked about it on the boat, but I would be in the absolute depths of like gnarly withdrawal, where you're vomiting and you're just, this is about as bad as it gets. You're at about an 8.5 to 9 on the scale of, the only thing worse is when it's coming out of both sides at the same time, which happens often. But you're waiting in a parking lot and the guy hands you the dope and you get it in your hands, right? And once you've got those bags in your hands, there's an instant flood, a release that says that, you know what, you're going to be all right. You're doing the right thing. Way to hang out, way to put in the time, way to put into the effort. We got it. And I would look at my friend Jack and we would, there were times where we'd be sitting there going, I can't make it another minute. And then you got the stuff in your hands and I'd go, you want to do this? And he'd go, nah, man, we're only about 10 minutes from my house. Why don't we just drive home? 30 seconds before I had that crap in the truck. We didn't think we could go another minute. But we've got all of those chemicals, the kind that you get when your child is born, the kind you get when you win a football game in overtime because you caught an interception, right, on the goal line, saved the game, right? Those kind of chemicals that just go, yeah, everything released at once. Well, that's what we get from doing dope. We're getting rewarded for doing shitty things. That makes it for a very, very tough hill to climb. But that knowledge, the knowledge that we have this thing in our brain, the striatum, and it becomes, bless you, it becomes a matter of trying to overcome that, right? And that's a massive thing. It becomes the focus of the rest of your life. And by the way, I don't care whether or not you're a drug addict. It's the same thing. The striatum does this with people in so many different ways. Miss Dragon, gifted 5 lifeboat memberships. Thanks so much, Miss Dragon. Really appreciate you. God bless. Love the boat. Going to be doing some members only video stuff here shortly. It'll be this week. We got a couple of videos going up actually on request. There's some people that have asked that we, you'll see it. We also have Mark Wages on Wednesday, people. Wednesday with Wages. You do not want to miss that, especially if you've, either way, if you've been around the boat a long time, it's always great when my bobbleheaded partner shows back up. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, we're partners in this thing for a really long time now. A lot of shows together, and it's a lot of fun when we get back together. It really is just a pretty good time. So that's going to be happening on Wednesday. So here we are, people. We're sitting here. We're fighting the most difficult thing that we're going to fight in our lifetimes. And I'm not making that any more rugged than it is. I'm not trying to, I'm literally not, I'm not sugarcoating this. Every single successful person on the planet, I don't care where their success came from, right? You see rock stars, you see athletes, you see, intellects, whatever. And if those people had a drug problem, when they get sober, everything else they do the rest of their life becomes, I did this, but not this was the most important thing I ever did. All of the people that got sober, you watch, interviews, and I talk about rock stars because they're always the easiest ones, and most people recognize them. But when they interview Elton John, and that man has won a Grammy, an Emmy, right, a Tony, that there's no awards he hasn't won. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And then he got the Lifetime Achievement Award. And when they gave him the Lifetime Achievement Award, and the guy said, you've done everything with all of the awards and all of the accolades, what are you most proud of? And he said, getting sober. And it didn't take him 2 seconds to answer it. And I've read biographies of a lot of different rock stars, and they all take amazing pride in the fact that they got sober. And it's one of the things that I wanted the lifeboat to do more than anything else. Mark was in total agreement. When we started the boat, we wanted a place where there was that much shame. I don't care what you did when you were on dope. I don't care. I did horrendous stuff when I was a drug addict. This stuff has the ability to completely rewire your mind so that you're no longer at the helm. And I'll tell you something, that revelation, these deep dives where you start reading about the mind and how it works really have cleared up for me an amazing amount of baggage in the rearview mirror, right? I really am trying to focus so that the rest of my life is what I've wanted it to be. And I'm focusing everything forward. I'm trying not to look in the rearview mirror. And when you did dope, when you did heroin for 30 years, the number of people that you have done dirty is astounding. There's no way to put a number on it. It basically, every person that you came in contact with for 3 decades, you were dishonest to. Unless they were heroin addicts, you were lying to them. You couldn't let anybody know the life you were living, because if you let them know the life you were living, they would freak out and do everything within their power to make sure that you don't do it anymore. New Zealand Chili Head on the get something to eat, Mr. Ray Ray. New Zealand Chili Head, I will make a deal with you, man. I'm not going to do it on here because it's probably a members only kind of content. But I have a Motley Crue story that I will tell on the on that channel. I mean, on this channel, but I'll do it for the members only. And if I can find it, I have a photo to back up some of the story. I have a really great photo of the. I got a great photo of the crew from Motley Crue that was taken in Houston, Texas, at a very late or early hour, depending on how you look at it. He's the one they call Dr. Feelgood. I have a photo that I took of them. Heather Locklear's in the photo as well. And I took the photo at either somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m. And suffice to say that the crew had been going all day long, but I'm way more involved in the story than that. I'll tell it on the for the pass for crew member. Oh, yeah, for the members, because it's a good story. But yeah, it's a good one, brother. You'll get a kick out of it. You really will, and I'm hoping that I can find the picture. Dirt is definitely a good movie. I do not remember the movie Dirt. I don't know why I'm struggling with that. Okay, so back to the subject matter at hand. So what are we going to do about this striatum? What are we going to do about this entire... Good to have you back, Balake. What are we going to do about this journey, this sobriety journey that we're going on? Well, a couple of things. Number one, you're going to stop beating the crap out of yourself for the things that you did when you were on it. It is absolutely a slippery slope right back to active addiction. I promise you. They say hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Guilt's a bitch. Guilt is an emotion. Struggling to come to grips with all that you destroyed, coming to grips with all that you ruined, with all that you lost, is a very difficult thing for people in addiction. And you know what? It's always going to be. Always going to be. No magic words here are going to change that. I struggle with it all the time. I think about the things that I lost. It's a struggle all the time. But I'll tell you something. It's a lot less of a struggle when I realize that I'm not the one that did it. Today, my sister had a go at me over things I said and did as a drunk. I apologized and have a lot in the past, but it's never enough. And it shouldn't be. I get it. But I want to move on. And you know what, Valerie, man, I can't tell you. I'm sorry. I love that comment. I really do. I love that comment. It's a difficult thing to say I deserve it. It really is a difficult thing to say I deserve it. But I have ruffled feathers in the last 3 days. There's a lot of people that were not happy. We lost some subscribers, right? Tommy's on here in withdrawal. I could have just said I was sick or whatever. I don't want to BS the crew. I kind of want to do this stuff and do it straight. I've never, lied to anybody about being on Suboxone. I've been very, very open, and I've been an advocate for medical assisted treatment and harm reduction, and I will continue to be an advocate for both. John Doe, I have a Skid Row story too that took place in Amsterdam. I actually met Sebastian Bach from Skid Row. I met him in Amsterdam twice, like 2 separate years. I can only apologize so many times before it's the other person trying to abuse me. You know what? Here's the deal. She says, Tim, I live with her. Well, and here's the thing, people. It gets to a point, okay? It gets to a point where the hang up is them, right? The hang up is them. You're literally getting to a point where you're not the problem anymore. You're really not. You've dealt with your past, right? Congratulations, 7th. Well played. You've done what you've done. You've taken responsibility for what you've done. And you have worked through the emotions that what you did has caused you. And you've done everything within your power to work through the emotions that your actions had caused others, right? You went through all of that. If they're still bringing stuff up and still beating on you, it's them that need the healing, not you. And what you're doing is, I think, absolutely perfect. You know what? It's me. I did it. I'm really, really sorry. I would love nothing in the world more than to be able to put this in our past. In the meantime, I'm just going to continue to apologize when it's brought up and own it. Take responsibility for it. But make no mistake, Valerie, you need to know that, booze was at the helm, right? I mean, it's one thing to take responsibility for what you've done. It's another thing. It's a completely other thing to allow that to destroy you. And there are people for whom it does. There are a lot. Crazy Brumfield, good to see you. There are a lot of people who get destroyed by exactly this. The inability to let go of the stuff in their past. This is a convict cancer. This is the reason that convicts have an 85% or higher recidivism rate. This is the reason that they never get out of the system. It's the reason that the average inmate gets trapped in a system and never gets out. It's because the guilt of the time that you lost, the guilt of the people that you hurt, all of that whole just follows you like the Peanuts cartoon where you've got that cloud that just goes everywhere you do. That's really, that's a very difficult thing for most convicts. And when you get out, is when it really, really hits. Like you can go through, you get 8 years in prison. In theory, you should be able to talk to every person you love, have that conversation about, I'm really sorry, here's where I am in my life now. Regardless, when you get out, now you really have to deal with all of the things that you haven't. You have to try to fix all of those relationships of all of the people you've hurt, all of that. And sadly, you got to do that while trying to get a job, get back on your feet, get a driver's license, get insurance, right? All of these different things. The name of Supplicone in the USA is called Lunesta. Gotcha. Yeah, I know Lunesta. I have a rogue hair on my mustache that is driving my nose crazy. And after not being on Suboxone for 3 days and then being back on it, I'm sure that my nose is just sensitive anyway. Quiet girl, you're not bothering anybody on the boat and you never will. So knock that off. We don't do that. I did a 3-month treatment. Had a buddy who seemed to be just as addicted to Suboxone as other drugs, would go haywire if they didn't get it. Ian, it's a really odd phenomenon. I've seen it a couple of different directions. I was in federal prison where this drug was really heavily abused because it's so easy to get in. If you've never done Mel says, for those with severe opiate use disorders, Suboxone can be a lifesaver. And let me tell you my Suboxone story, people, because mine is very different than the average one that you hear. And if you're new to the boat, you may not have heard this story. But I met Q and I got sober and I was doing all of the things that I do today. And I was probably doing more of them because I was incarcerated. Brandon, good to see you. I was incarcerated. So I was always... I was occupying my time every minute of every day. And there was a lot of working out. There was a lot of working with people. And it was a hands-on, every day, really concentrating on sobriety kind of a thing. And I made 5 years of sobriety. And I had left prison and I was in a halfway house where guys were doing dope every day. And it was, I never was tempted because I was just so afraid of going back to prison. But it was disturbing. And it was one of those things that I spent a lot of time thinking about. Not like, hey, I'm going to give in here, but it was almost fear. It was like every day there was this fear that there was a drug out there just waiting for me to have that bad day or that meet the right person. Like I didn't know all these people at the halfway house, but what if I had come up against someone I knew from my past or people I did dope with or whatever. I was terrified and I was white knuckling my sobriety. I remember sitting in my room one day and there were guys eating pain pills. There were guys eating Xanax. There was lines of cocaine on a desk and I'm sitting and journaling and writing about sobriety and just thinking, you know what, this is just like, and I couldn't get up and walk outside. I couldn't do any of those things. You're basically locked in there. It's just a rung above prison is what it is. But I got a phone call from a doctor that said, would you be willing to talk to us about a Suboxone program? And I said, I quit 5 years ago. And they said, well, do you still have cravings? And I said, yeah, I have cravings all the time. So I didn't take Suboxone to avoid withdrawal. I was already long sober. I got on Suboxone because I couldn't get rid of the cravings for heroin. After 5 years, they were still there. But this weekend was really kind of eye-opening for me because it was withdrawal. It was like every withdrawal I've ever been in my life. Snot face. I'm sorry to hear. Did you say you were sick? Feeling sick. Oh, I'm sorry, snot face. We get some prayers for you. Huh? We get some thoughts and prayers for snot face if we can. That would make me happy. So, yeah. So for, this was an eye opener over the course of 3 days of being off this, because as much as it was withdrawal and all of that, it was nothing like the withdrawals that I went through when I was using heroin. It was a very uncomfortable body thing going on, but maybe it's where I'm at in my sobriety. I had no, I've always kind of viewed, it withdrawal in kind of a two-tiered thing, right? I worry about, I got to worry about my health, right? The vomiting and all of the physical stuff. And then I got to worry about the mental stuff. There was nothing mental at all. There was no cravings. There was no thoughts of how can I go get some opiates in my system. There was no thought of trying to do something other than Suboxone. There was none of that. And that's usually such an epic part of every time I've ever been in withdrawal. All I could think about was, I can make this go away. There's got to be a way. I mean, I could have driven 2 miles the whole weekend. That pharmacy was open. I could have driven 2 miles, given him $400, walked out into the parking lot with my script. But I saw it as an opportunity to really cut down on the amount that I was taking. I think I've gotten to a point after 8 years of sobriety and 3 of those spent on Suboxone. I think I'm ready to be off of it. You know what I mean? I think I am. I'm not getting off of the drug because I think it's a bad drug. I'm getting off the drug because I honestly don't think I need it anymore. I didn't crave drugs at all in 3 days of not having anything in my system. And to me, that's a pretty good sign. So I started out with 2 milligrams and I am going to take 2 milligrams for probably a week. and then I'm going to cut it in half and go down to 1 milligram. And the plan is to do 1 milligram for maybe a week. I'd much rather a client take Suboxone than have a lapse in OD. I love it, right? How's that? Tell me that's not a great comment. Tell me that that is not a great comment. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with medical assisted treatment. Is it trading one drug for another? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. You're trading heroin or fentanyl or whatever opioid you're taking, and you're trading it for something that is a much different drug. Number one, the chase is over. So the lifestyle aspects of the addiction are no longer an issue. And I promise you, people, that one of the biggest problems you got if you're addicted to opiates, the lifestyle is killing you as much as the drug is. The fact that you got to come up with cash every single day. This is when people start to steal, sell their bodies, make really, really bad decisions. And what medical assisted treatment does more than anything else is it eliminates that chase. It eliminates all of the BS that you got to do every day to not get sick. All of a sudden, at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's taken care of. And it's taken care of until 6 o'clock in the morning, right? It's 24 hours of not thinking about your substance. So now you've got the ability to go out and start to get a job and start to do all of the things that a person needs to do to get self-esteem back, right? To get into a position in life where you feel good about who you are, where you're no longer feeling wildly uncomfortable in your own skin, which is usually, for me, that's what drives me to dope. When I start feeling really uncomfortable in my own skin, I'm in trouble. But if you can stay on medical assisted treatment until you really are comfortable in your own skin and then really slowly taper off the stuff, I think it's one of the greatest substances ever created. I really do. I don't know how else to say it, but I really think it's good stuff. John Lewis, by the way, man that synthesized it. God bless you, John Lewis. In fact, you know what? You don't have to do this, but I'm doing it. That's for John Lewis, because the number of lives I have watched personally saved by Suboxone is astounding. It's absolutely astounding. The number of, since I started the lifeboat, the number of people that the boat has helped get onto medical assisted treatment who have turned their lives around and really made tremendous headway. And not all of them, not all of them. We have people that fall out, and we have people that sell their prescription to go get dope, and all kinds of stuff. But that's the nature of addiction. I'm blown away at the success rate that we have with people who get on medical assisted treatment, and that's not just for opiates. That's also for alcohol. People are having so much success right now with the naltrexone. Is really doing wonderful things. And it's funny because we talked about it in such detail, but what it does is naltrexone turns off what we were talking about earlier, right? It turns off the reward center of the brain. So if a person drinks when they're on naltrexone, they're still going to get a buzz. You know what I mean? It feels to them just like they're on alcohol. The only difference is they're not, sorry, people. My system's all messed up. There's no difference in terms of the alcohol affecting you. Naltrexone is not like Antabuse or any of those. You can still get drunk. You're going to feel all of the effects of the booze. You're just not going to have the pleasure center kicked on. You're not going to get that feeling of, oh, this was so important. This was so epic. This was so wonderful. When that first sip hits your lips, if your substance of choice was alcohol, mine was not. But if your substance of choice was alcohol, I have heard so many people that struggle with alcohol use disorder tell me that first sip, they would go into a bar after work or they would go home and do a shot or whatever. But when that first sip touches their lips, once I can get my hands on the Systroming too, I'll put the video up for a laugh. Yes, you must put up a Systroming video. If you haven't seen ours, it's a good one. But yeah, you need to put that up. To be sure, you need to put that up. Because it is the greatest stuff in the whole world. Shatsy, glad that you're here. I was talking about mullet earlier. My neighbor friend Chelsea T. passed last night. Oh my God. She had lined up for treatment and we thought she was going to rehab any day. Shatsy, I am so sorry, man. I really am. You know what? Shatsy, this one's for you. My heart bleeds for you, my man. It really does. I can truthfully say that the number of days that have gone by without me hearing that somebody was lost in this war, it is a rare day that somebody doesn't reach out to tell me that we lost somebody. Yeah, I am so sorry, Shanti. I really am. It's and you know what? It's a great, illustration, and I'm not trying to, but it's just such a great illustration. When the people, I get a lot of crap because I back Suboxone. I get a lot of crap because I believe in medical assisted treatment and because I believe in harm reduction. I catch a lot of crap. But you know what? You got to keep people alive so that you can get them into treatment and that you can get them help. I don't believe, all the time people come here and they say, oh, I'm beyond help, or, I think I've been doing this too long. It's just, I don't believe that anybody is beyond help if they're alive. And one of the reasons that I have just changed how I feel about everything having to do with the entire, illicit drug world and this war on drugs. When I started the lifeboat, I was 180 degrees in the opposite direction in almost everything that I believed. And then I got here and I started meeting people who had drug problems that I read about. I am not an alcoholic. I have no point of reference. I understand addiction, but I don't understand their addiction. And having an opportunity to talk to so many people whose drugs of choices were not my drug of choice, I just found out we really are all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat, and there are some subtle differences, right? But my coworker's mother was going through chemo. Just found out it has spread to her liver and other organs. They're only giving her 30 to 90 days. Oh man, I am sorry. I really am sorry for that too. And I'll tell you something else, people. And I have been hesitant to tell you this. It pains me to no end. But you guys were praying for my friend Eli, and now I just if you're someone that prays or sends positive energy or whatever it is you do for his wife and for his family, because they've given up any treatment. They're not treating him at all anymore. The cancer has just progressed to the point where it just takes a miracle at this point. And that miracle, if it were to happen, is not going to take place in a chemo ward or anything else. He's going to pass. And they were talking about a week to maybe 2. It's just, he's had this his entire life, and the guy's a fighter, but I think that the fight is just sort of out of him. This one is just, it hit way too hard. And it's a really tough situation. And he has a lovely wife and children. So if you could just pray for his family, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we're going to fight this striatum thing together, right? We're going to fight this striatum thing together. And I would recommend, if you're serious about this thing, if you really want to spend the rest of your life sober, then you got to start looking at your day and looking for landmines that your brain can leave out for you. Start looking for the places that are going to blow you up, so to speak. And what does that mean? Well, what do you do all day? Well, from about 11 to 2:30, there's just nothing. So I sit on the couch and don't have dead time. Don't have dead time. It will end up costing you. The whole idle hands, Devil's Workshop, all of those great cliches. There's a damn good reason that those cliches are there. And in addiction, look, when we do nothing, you ever wonder why when you're sitting around doing nothing, that's always when the cravings come on. It's always when the automatic negative thoughts start coming in. I was 20 in 1990, deeply an addict, like I was sitting in the bottom of an abyss, gazing in despair at the top. But then I realized there's no way out. There's a lie. I climbed out and I stayed out. Crazy Brownfield, I love that. I love that. And I root for anybody that was born at the same time I was, because we are the mindfulness exercise increase the neural connection and the striatum. Great to practice. The ability, and this obviously is somebody that knows more than me, but thank you, Mel. The ability to get your life reprogrammed, to get your brain reprogrammed, so that the default setting is not always running and hiding. This process, I can't stress this enough, and it's something that sadly is just part of the deal, I think. But we build up this thing in our head